Hello and welcome to the West Oaks Football Show. I'm your host, Stephen Downs, and I've got a very, very special guest today. It's me v Christopher Bell. If anybody doesn't know, I'm a Huddersfield Town fan. Hello, my shirt. And Chris is a Lincoln City fan. And this weekend is the massive match of the Giants in Huddersfield Town playing the Minnows of Lincoln City in League One. Welcome, Chris, to the podcast. Thank you for joining us on this special Town Talk show.
You've set the precedent already, have you?
Yeah. Well, we've got lots to talk about. It is a big game, if we're being honest. In terms of, we've been looking forward to this one since the start of the season, really, since Town came down.
Let's be honest. Since the iconic moment last season in which you were relegated, we've been looking forward to this one. Let's get that out of the way.
To be fair, if you're saying iconic, that just proves that Town are a big football club. I mean, nothing that Lincoln's ever done has been iconic, if we're being completely honest. But there's lots to talk about in this fixture. Both sides wanting to be at the top of the division. Lincoln currently 9th, Huddersfield are 4th. Huddersfield have got the best unbeaten run. Not unbeaten, but the best sort of form table for the league. Lincoln have struggled slightly in the league at the moment, but have played a lot of top teams around them. But they are doing very well in the cup, something Town can't profess to have done this season, to be honest. Chris, how are you feeling at the moment as we sit here on this glorious Friday morning?
Well, I mean, I feel like you're kind of building this up expecting a bit of a battle, but actually, I'm to be honest, I'm quite happy to sit here and say, yeah, you're the favourites. We're not in great form. We've not been getting results in the league games recently, and all the pressure's on yourselves. So look, we might be lucky second point. So all the pressure's on you guys.
I mean,
expectancies on Town.
This is not the attitude that you've been given in the WhatsApp chat, I have to say.
You've been very quiet in the WhatsApp chat,
Obviously, at the start of the season, I think you were hoping for big things from your manager. I'm not going to say his name because I say it wrong all the time, but yes, Skabala.
Oh my.
But yeah, I think at the start of the season, you were hoping for big things. How has Lincoln's season gone so far in your thoughts?
Pretty much how I expected, to be fair. Like playoffs at one point and just outside the playoffs now. I still think we got a chance of making the playoffs. I think by big things, I think the playoffs was realistically the best we were going to hope for, with the sides that came down, with the sides that came up as well. Obviously, Wrexham doing what they're doing. Wycombe are obviously a surprise package, really, that people certainly weren't expecting them to be as high as they are, obviously sitting joint top. I think, to be fair, the playoffs I would have been happy with. Obviously, we missed out last season by a point, having losing to Portsmouth on the final day cost us. We missed out by 1 place and 1 point. Just to kind of to go one better and get a playoff spot was really the hope, I think, at the start of the season when you looked at the overall division. And look, we're reasonably on course to do that. It's not a massive gap, 4 points between ourselves and Reading. And to be fair, Reading, I think, are one of those sides that are surprising quite a few with the season that they're having.
Yeah, definitely. I think Reading and Wycombe are the surprise packages so far. Mansfield early part of the season they did really well, didn't they? And I think they've just sort of slightly dropped off at the moment. But in terms of the side, you're not scoring a lot of goals. We did a Town Talk show, myself, Kane, and Callum, a week or so ago, and we talked about the fact that Town aren't scoring a lot of goals either, but somehow we're getting those victories across the line, and it seems our form is kind of opposite to yours at the moment. You're not quite getting those breaks in the games that you'd hope against the teams around us.
Yeah, as you say, like to be fair, we only actually scored 4 less goals than yourselves. To be fair, it's just we've conceded. We've scored 24, I think, in the league so far, and conceded 23. So we're not exactly doing well on the on the goal difference stakes. Yeah, our goals are kind of, say, we're talking off air, aren't we? And both fan bases, I think, feel that their respective clubs have the same problem in that they are still missing that elusive striker that's going to score 15, 20, 25 goals in a season.
Yeah.
Our kind of been shared around a little bit. There's, I think Bailey Cadamarteri is going to be the club's top goal scorer in all competitions on 6. Then you've got the likes of Jack Moylan, who's a cracking little midfielder, and Makama on 5, Ben House on the striker on 4, and then Paddy O'Connor and Freddie Draper on 3. So we've spread the goals around, but yeah, up front is still looking like an issue for Michael Scavala's side at the moment. We've Ben House and Rob Street is what I expected to be the kind of the pairing at the start of the season. Hasn't panned out that way at all. The academy lads that have come through, the graduates in Jova Makama and Freddie Draper, who to be fair to Draper, had a good spell at Walsall last season before he was recalled from his loan spell back in January. Kind of started more often this season, and that inexperience, I think, has possibly shown. Obviously, it's a tough league. It's League One when you're 18, 19, 20 years of age and kind of come through the academy. But to their credit, they're deserving of getting minutes because they've performed well both at academy level and as I say, in the spells that Draper had out on loan. And they're certainly keeping more. I mean, I say experience. I mean, Rob Street's only about 23, 24-year-old, but they're keeping, all the players out of those starting roles at the moment. Bailey Cadamarteri is the interesting one because he himself is obviously a young lad. Got a good header and the only goal of the game for Lincoln against Morecambe on Tuesday night. It's actually now 6. So it's one of those. I think top. Let's be honest, top of both clubs' transfer wish list in January. I imagine it's going to be Joe Taylor.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. So, Town and Lincoln do have a bit of a shared past, and I'm sure we can speak about it in a moment or two. But just keeping with the theme of what's up top, Town do have a lot of strikers on the books, but seemingly none of them are either working very well or they've been shipped out on loan, and it seems like that their career at Huddersfield Town might be coming to an end. Where I don't think Lincoln's got necessarily that problem. I think you've got a few strikers, but you're quite light up there, aren't you? You talk about sharing the goals around, and Town have done that very well, over not just this season so far, but the last couple of seasons, where we had Michael Hellick has been top scorer last season with 10 goals from centre-back. Matty Pearson scored 4 or 5 so far this campaign. Ben Wiles has got 6 goals. The only real forward that's scored any sort of goals really is Callum Marshall, a young lad from West Ham, and Josh Karoma. So yeah, it's great to share the goals round, as you say, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing at all. And I'm sure we'll come on to talk about the importance of set pieces, but you do need a top striker, don't you? Particularly if you want to get promoted out of this division, and that's what Alfie May is at Birmingham.
Yeah, that's obviously. I know how much the Alfie May situation hurt you over the course of pre-season, the start of this season. So
I didn't make it plain, did I, Chris?
We'll not rake that back up. But yeah, it's bloody obvious, isn't it? But an out-and-out goal scorer is crucial for every team. It's what every team wants to have, isn't it? And most of the top teams do have somebody that is head and shoulders. Whilst the rest of the team are sharing the goals out, there's usually always somebody that's getting, the high double figures sort of thing, your 15 to 20 at least. And I'll say both sides are certainly going to be looking for that, I think, come January. Obviously, Kevin Nagel's made it very clear from what I've seen across social media over the course of the season that striker is his number one priority. Even if it wasn't Michael Duff's priority, I feel like it would still be Kevin's priority, would be a striker, even if Michael didn't want one. Even if Michael's like, no, it's all good, it's fine. No, Michael, you're getting a striker.
How's the Lincoln fan base at the moment in terms of the manager, and there seems to be a wave of optimism behind him still. Did the Lincoln fans feel that he can take him to that next step? Because he's one of them sort of sought after style managers, isn't he? You obviously Bielsa's at Leeds, Corberan at West Brom. He's kind of the next off the ladder, isn't he? Really.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's been in the job for just over a year. Obviously came from Leeds Academy. He'd had minimal experience with the first team when he was filling in as a caretaker when Leeds were chopping and changing managers left, right, and centre. And I think he took charge of Leeds in the Premier League away at Old Trafford and got a point there in one of the 3 or 4 games that he had in charge of the senior side. So to be fair to say, it's his first kind of spell in senior management. I think he's doing all right. It's one of those. It's always a risk in that. I remember saying to Jay on the show after we'd taken him from Leeds on 23, said it was one of those where you kind of feel like it's going to either be a bit of a catastrophic disaster or work really, really well. And it's certainly more the latter. Although he had a tough start, I'll be honest. There was, I think, 10 games or more last season from mid-November, I think it would have been, right and through until the back end of January, where we didn't win a game. And I remember, to be fair, I took Lou down to Derby County because that was on a Thursday night just before Christmas for some reason, and it was free. So I dragged Lewis along for that, as I am doing tomorrow to town as well. And you could, even kind of the limited games that I have seen, you could see there was something in the style. We just weren't taking his chances. And that kind of seems to be a little bit of the way that this season's panned out. Style-wise, it's the modern game, innit? It's the possession base where possible. Although I say that, we're having possession in good areas, even if we're not actually having that much of the ball. So possession stats this season seem to be quite a bit down overall. But when we are having the ball, it's usually in the opposition half.
Because you're a Pep hater. We all know that, on the channel, and you make it quite clear in the WhatsApp group that you absolutely detest Pep Guardiola's sort of way of playing.
Cannot be doing with this way of modern football, especially in League One, League Two, National League, non-league football, particularly of just playing around at the back with players that aren't necessarily capable of doing so. And you see, I mean, Christ, you see it in the Premier League this season with Russell Martin and his insistence on playing out and how much it's costing Southampton in the Premier League.
Yeah. Well, we saw it down at Thackley, didn't we? At times, I wouldn't say that it was overtime, but it certainly was. Both sides were it was Thackley v Silsden, by the way, for anybody who didn't know that we've been there. But both sides did take risks at the time, so I mean that's how much of an effect he's had on the English game, really.
Yeah, and I said I'm quite pleased to say that for Lincoln at least that. I say we may not have particularly high possession stats, but the bulk of that possession that we do have is in the opposition half. We're not afraid to mix it up. And I saw Michael Duff, his pre-game conference. I think it was yesterday. I think it was on the live stream, and he kind of thought that both Town and Lincoln were fairly similar in their approach to games, but also both more than happy to mix it up and go a little bit more direct and a little bit more route one when necessary. And look, I'm all for that kind of being able to mix it up because for me, sticking with a certain possession based style where you take in 40 passes in your own half to get a shot off that comes to nothing, it's a bit pointless for me. It's not very exciting. I don't think that's just my opinion. Obviously,
I agree.
Some managers and some fans it works. I mean, City fans have been loving that up until 10 games ago. So, Manchester City fans, that is. So yeah, to be fair, I think it's going to be quite an interesting battle on the pitch style wise.
What is your formation? Because Duff has this thing about playing 3-5-2,
isn't he? Yeah.
But also, he does change it where it depending on the fixture. We have seen where he's changed to a 4 at the back, and then even sometimes he's gone 3-4-3. So it's kind of, but he rarely, he only does it when he needs to, kind of thing. If things are going swimmingly well, he doesn't tend to change it that much. I mean, one game he changed the formation 4 times, and you could clearly see that he changed it every time. But
yeah,
how does that compare to Skubala?
Not difficult, Stephen. Not difficult. Fairly similar. I mean, look, there's a reason why Lars Sorensen, for example, was a target for Michael Duff for this Town side. because he was playing in the 3-5-2 as a right wing back for Lincoln last season. Obviously under Michael Scabala. And actually, on the face of it, hasn't changed a great deal. I mean, there's been games when we have gone four at the back. But quite often it is a back three and wing backs. And look, we've replaced Sorensen pretty well actually. Experiencing Tendai Deriqua, and also in Tom Heyman from Burton Albion, who's a more than capable right wing back. He's got a weapon of a long throw. The problem is he's injured. And you'll be glad to know he's injured and looks like he will be for potentially another couple of months, judging from what Scabala said in his pre-match press conference. So sadly for you, that's not an option. I can't bring back haunting memories of Tamworth for you.
I don't want to see Tommy Tonks ever again. I'm sure he's a nice bloke. I'm sure he works very hard in whatever he does, but I don't need to see him again. Thanks.
Can Lincoln take you on a one-day loan for tomorrow?
No, Tamworth. If you're watching this, that's not happening. It's not allowed.
So style-wise and formation, I think actually it'd be pretty similar. Now, whether that will kind of make it, I say, more of an interesting battle to watch, or whether actually that might make it a little bit more two teams trying to suss each other out, shall we say, and a little bit tepid of a match will remain to be seen.
But you say that, and that's quite interesting because after the international break, a couple of 2 months ago now, we played.
Was that around the time that Town were in crisis?
Yeah.
That international break, yeah.
And we were in crisis at the time. Backside. Yeah. So we came out in that international break and we played Barnsley, Bristol Rovers, Wrexham, and who else did we play? We played somebody else. I can't remember. Somebody else at home. And every team played 3-5-2. And we played really well in most of those games. So I don't know if it's a case of if you're going to play 3-5-2, you're going to have to play well against us because it seems like Duff kind of knows, it's chess, but against yourself in it, if you know what I mean. I think he likes managers saying, right, well, we'll play the same system against you. And Duff's like, yeah, well, go on then, because I'm definitely going to beat you, or I'm definitely going to, have a good chance of beating you. And I think he prefers that, where sometimes we've come up against, say, like Shrewsbury, who sit back in a 4-4-2 formation, and all we do is sit back and play on the break. That's been slightly more difficult for us this season.
Well, it'll be interesting then, because I say we've got the squad and the capability to change it up and to, throw a bit of a curveball and go with a different formation from the off. I suspect it'll be the three at the back. But Scapala will have done his homework. So it will be interesting to see exactly what comes out. I mean, can't read too much into Tuesday night's game because the fact it was the Virtue Motors Trophy. It's changing names again mid competition.
Do they need to get rid of it, Chris? They need to.
No, the competition itself is excellent. It's more just the fact that they keep changing sponsors every 30 seconds. Like, it used to be that a competition would have a sponsor for like 3 years and that would be guaranteed. And then it'd change and be something else. That's fine. But the start of last season, it was still the Papa John's Trophy.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Then midway through last season, it became the Bristol Street Motors Trophy, which is what it started this season. And then literally in the last month and a half or so, it's changed from the Bristol Street Motors to the Virtue Motors. It's nuts.
It doesn't help the competition. People already think it's a bit of a joke. So
I mean, I still refer to it. I still refer to it as the LDV Vans Trophy anyway, and the format's completely different from what it was back then. So you can't read too much into kind of what we put out. I think it was eight changes, if not more, that we'd made for that game. Kind of fringe players that needed some minutes and opportunities for kind of those that have been on the edge that kind of we given a start. Bailey Cadamarchi being a good example of that one. So you probably can't read too much into it, but it's something to go into this. Look, with the way that our league form has been, wins where we'd be able to get them in the cups against Crawley in recent weeks in the FA Cup, and then as I say in the EFL Trophy games, is something that we'll kind of look to build on, I guess.
The Town played Bolton on Tuesday night, just to update people that don't know. And I would say we had the more difficult fixture. I think that's a given. And both teams actually did put out half decent teams. Town went actually quite strong, surprisingly. I mean, Duff did say that he was gonna. I think the thinking behind that was that we were 12 unbeaten. Let's keep the momentum up. But in players' minds, of course, if they don't, I'm not saying that they didn't try, but mistakes were made that probably wouldn't have happened in a league game, or you'd like to hope not, because of the intensity. There was only 2,000 in the stadium, and at Bolton, where it's like, what is it, 27,000 or
28,
something,
yeah, 28,
28,000.
29,000.
2,000 is not a lot in a stadium like that, if I'm honest. So
I'm
they,
glad you mentioned Bolton, actually, because that's a point that I'm going to come to later on regarding Bolton, and you'll see why in due course, but carry on.
cool. So I like these segues. So the 2,000 in the stadium probably didn't add to the intensity, and so Town lost 3-1. Jacob Chapman made his first error. I hope Duff doesn't take him out the team just for one error, if I'm honest. Although Lee Nichols is coming back to some sort of fitness. Chris Maxwell is obviously on the bench.
Has Chapman been kind of week in, week out of late then?
Yep. Yeah. So for the last
That's
sort of 10 weeks, he's been the number one, and Chris Maxwell, has taken his turn on the bench. I think, without Lee Nichols getting his injury and Maxwell having this heart problem that is obviously now sort of being monitored and got over, Chapman would have never got his chance. And to be honest, like, he's taken it really well. And it reminds me slightly, I know me and Kane sort of disagreed on this, but it slightly reminds me of when Alex Smithers came into the team all those years ago, where he was a little bit younger. I think he was only like 17 at the time. Chapman's 20. But, it's nice to see a young goalkeeper come through and do really well. Town's had a number of them of recent years, and really none of them have stepped up to the plate, and Chapman's taking his chance.
He's a bit older, is Chapman, than that, He's 24. He's waited a long time for this opportunity.
Oh, is he 24? Oh, I get that wrong.
24.
He don't look 20. Don't look 24.
No, he doesn't. But because obviously he came to, obviously with for those that may not know, one of my jobs is working with Rochdale on their commentary team, and obviously we saw him when he came to Rochdale on loan at the back end of last season as emergency loanee, and he did really well. He only played maybe half a dozen games or so at most, I think. Yeah. Right at the back end of the season, but out of and believe me, Dale went through a few keepers over the course of last season. Second half of the season in particular, he was certainly the best of the bunch that came in my eyes. He was more than capable. And look, I think I remember saying to you actually in the summer when we didn't know what was going to happen to Jacob Chapman in particular, whether he could end up being shipped out or loaned out again, that from a Dale perspective, we'd have happily had him back for this season if the opportunity had arisen. So in all fairness, it's really good to see he's getting game time now.
Yeah, I just hope that the error that he made at Bolton the other night hasn't sort of, I don't think Duff's that type of manager anyway, that one mistake means that you're immediately out. But if there's another error and then another error, then you might have to look at it and just maybe give him a 1 or 2 weeks out. But if he's training hard and whatever, then, and I'm sure he is, and he comes across as a decent sort of lad that works hard, then I don't see why we shouldn't be left in the team. But that's created a bit of through this run, that's created a really stable back sort of four, including the goalkeeper, back three. Obviously, Michael Ellick's come back, Matty Pearson, Tom Lees, he just goes on and on. And then the other sort of position between Lomvik, Spencer, has sort of been up for grabs. But then you've got Turton sort of on the left, who's really created that, position his own. And I think while Lasse Sorensen is definitely started the season as the number one pick, it'll be interesting to see, whether he gets straight back in the team, because if we're being honest, Turton's really played well and made the position his own.
I had seen, to be fair, looking earlier on, and there was 1 or 2 things I'd seen from the Town perspective saying that he might be back for the bench for tomorrow rather than necessarily straight back into the starting lineup.
Yeah, we're talking about. I don't know if you want to make your Bolton point now.
Well, it's more about the away day thing. So I was looking at this. So obviously, I've got my tickets for the away end for Town, £25 for an adult, which I kind of took as standard, I suppose, for League One. However, credit to Bolton, we've got them on the 29th of December, I think it is, last fixture of the year. I looked at the tickets earlier. Adults, £10.
Yeah, it's
Which
good
is
that.
absolutely bloody brilliant for League One football.
Yeah.
Like, adults, £10. I was like, that is remarkable. So I'm going to see if I can drag Lewis onto that one as well. So.
Is Lewis just your football partner? I think he is, isn't he? But
I'm just starting to. Well, actually, I'm hope. Well, to be fair, tomorrow might go a long way to decipher whether or not he comes again, because he's only been to one Lincoln game previously, and that was also that Derby County game last season, which Lincoln lost 3-1. So if we lose tomorrow, he might not come again to Lincoln games.
Let's talk a little bit about, obviously this might be a bit of a cringe moment for you, but past sort of historical instances between Town and
It's been 20 odd years. Let it go, Steve. Let it go. Don't mention the offside. Let it go.
And Lincoln. Obviously, Town have played Lincoln a number of times in the playoffs, some bad, some good. Lincoln, obviously the big one was 2004, realistically, and then we went to go beat Mansfield, and it was 20 years the other day since we played them. But there's been a number of obviously managers and players, even Peter Jackson, I say Sorensen recently, Harry Toffolo, Danny Cowley, Nat Brown, yeah. I mean, we've got quite a close. It's not really a rivalry, but there are these instances where you come up against clubs and you do have a bit of a past history with them, don't you, Chris?
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, it's a miracle. This is the first league meeting for 20 years.
Yeah, it's mad,
which is absolutely nuts, because as I know you're well aware, I still view Huddersfield Town as a League One, League Two side, really.
No, I mean, to be fair, many people do, and it depends what era you were born into.
This is the thing. Honest. I think, to be fair, this is because growing up as a a youngster, like 12, 13, 14, so obviously that last meeting in 2004, I would have been like 14-year-old. So, there's I mean, there are, to be fair, probably a lot more links between the two clubs personnel-wise, obviously, than probably quite a lot of other EFL sides actually with Lincoln, to be fair. As I say, obviously Jacko's a big one as well, and then more recently managerial-wise, the Cowley brothers as well. So, yeah.
I know that I know that you spent some time in non-league and whatever, and you have worked your way back up. Credit to Danny Cowley for that. But I always, to be fair, and I'm going to be really nice here, Chris, but I have always seen Lincoln as a football league club and should be the staple of kind of a club in the league. I think it's sad when we lose members, and I know you work for Rochdale, and that was kind of, I was really sad when Rochdale went down to non-league, because I've never known them to be anywhere. I've known them to be, battling in the middle of League One 10 years ago when Town were in there, and a really gutsy football club. But I hope, and Oldham are the same. Clubs like that, Chesterfield, I think these sort of clubs are the staple of the Football League. And obviously it does churn over time, and there has been new members such as Bromley now and, Luton and, clubs like that. But, yeah, it's good to see Lincoln doing well, mate.
Yeah, it's been a fair road back, to be fair. It's obviously going up, thinking back from like 2004. It's been quite the journey, obviously, of playoff defeats thereafter, as well as just the Town one. And then obviously the drop into non-league, the kind of six years or so down in the National League as it is now, and then kind of the fight back up. But the fight back up has probably been far better than anyone really expected it to be honest. I think when we came back up into League Two, I think a lot of fans were like, right, that's at least we're back kind of at the very minimum where we belong. But we've kind of been able to build on that, really, especially attendance wise. I was looking at some attendances for some of the League Two games before we went down to the National League. We're kind of talking 3,500. Like the crowds when we came back up from the National League were at 6,000 and 7,000 sort of thing.
Yeah,
but have barely ever dropped. In fact, they've been pretty much consistently well above that ever since, both in League Two and obviously since going back into League One for the first time since the mid-90s.
What do you think I think we're very, very well averse on this channel of what I think the progression arc of Huddersfield Town should be. When we went to the Premier League, that was a miracle. Shouldn't realistically have never happened. Town shouldn't be in the top league, if we're being completely honest. Although I loved the fact that we were there. I think we should be sort of at the middle of the Championship level. Battling with bigger clubs. That's where I see us as, and sometimes creeping over that edge and trying for a playoff push. But what is Lincoln's fans' ambition, do you think? Where obviously you've had that road back, like you've just said, but is there a point where you think, right, this is where Lincoln deserve to be, this is where we should be?
I think the overall ambition would certainly to try and get into the Championship, and Championship it's such a weird. When you look back over, so again, for the last 15, 20 years, some of the sides that have been able to get into the Championship that you wouldn't necessarily say are in any way, shape, or form Championship clubs. So, again,
massive example.
With absolutely no disrespect meant, Yeovil were the first team that came to mind. Obviously, they're National League now.
Yeah.
Yeovil, Scunthorpe United, obviously fairly near neighbours for Lincoln.
Grimsby have been in Burton.
Yeah, Burton have been in there.
Exeter, I think. Maybe one season.
Not that I can remember, but even like Wickham, Wickham went up under Gareth Ainsworth not that long ago.
Yeah.
And there are certainly in Yeovil's case, and I'll say probably Burton as well. They're clubs that I kind of look at as a Lincoln fan and think that could have been us. I mean, to be fair, Bournemouth in the Premier League is still one that I struggle to get my head around. I know they've been there for the majority of the last 10 years now, probably.
Yeah.
But I still think back to that first playoff final defeat for Lincoln, which was 5-3 to Bournemouth at the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff. And whilst Bournemouth since then have fallen hard times, they've also managed to get themselves from being a League Two club to the bloody Premier League. And you're just like, it's one of those sliding doors moments, I think, where certainly for me, you look at it and think, how the hell have they done that? Like, and also, that could have been us. Imagine if that had been us that had taken that kind of road. So for Brentford now, you look at Brentford doing well in the Premier League under Daniel Thomas Frank. Well established, arguably, you'd probably say now as a Premier League side almost.
Yeah.
And you just think, they were always a League Two side. They kind of yo-yo a little bit between 1 and 2 at Griffin Park back in the day when we'd be going there in those days. There's so many clubs that you can kind of look at and think, yeah, how
Rotherham are a good example. I think Rotherham
Yeah.
are an example of they go absolutely struggle and then just normally come back down and thrive again in League One. That's not really happened in this case. And I think the other probably club that comes to mind is Doncaster. I think they're another one of I don't see why
the one that they got to the Championship, didn't they?
Yeah, and I don't see why Lincoln can't, emulate something like what Doncaster did. But
I mean, the difficulty is, I think I was watching there's the Lincoln kind of fans blog and podcast, the Stacey West, and obviously we had Gary on for our League One season preview right back at the start of the season, and I was watching that kind of preview for the Town game, and the chat they had on from Huddersfield perspective made the fair point of just that gulf though now between the Championship overall and kind of in League One seems to be absolutely huge. Like you look at Portsmouth now, who were really, really bloody good last season in League One, at just how much they're struggling now, and it's pretty daunting to be honest. Like
but do you know what's mad
so
though?
hard to be punching in the Championship now as a club without massive backing and finances. That even if Lincoln were to get there, it's like, okay, yay, we've got there, but how the hell would we cope at that level anyway? How would we realistically be able to kind of maintain a challenge to stay in the Championship, let alone, thrive at it and stay there for multiple seasons?
The mad thing about the Championship, though, I think obviously, I'm going to try and not mention Leeds, but I've mentioned them now. But they are the standout in the Championship because of the squad and the quality they've got. Now, obviously, Town for the last 10 years have been sort of in the Championship. All right, 2 years in the Premier League, but mainstays in the Championship. And what I always think about the Championship is when you're in a dogfight in the Championship, you watch a game and you think, it's not that quality. Like, even when you're playing decent sides like Middlesbrough or Blackburn or, even when Wolves were in there in some instances, they weren't great games, Chris. You weren't thinking, oh my God, we're watching Champions League football. You just, if your side put maybe 5% on what they were doing, they'd win the game. But a lot of turgid football's played in the Championship. What I think about League One is you either get very good fixtures, which I think hopefully this weekend will be, or you get absolutely dog crap teams coming to your ground, and you just think, what like Crawley. No disrespect to Crawley, but I expect us to be beating Crawley. Bristol Rovers came, and I thought Bristol Rovers might sneak into the top 14 in the league, but they were absolutely horrific. They were one of the worst teams I've seen in a long time, Bristol Rovers.
I'll start with the Championship part. I think I disagree slightly. I think watching Championship football now is far closer to watching Premier League games now than it is to watching League One football at all levels, whether that's bottom end Championship or top end Championship sort of thing. I think there's certainly a very distinguishable gulf between the two. I think with League One, see it again, and I'm going to make the same point that I think Ben made on the Stacey West, is that you're only saying that because you've not seen League One football for the last few years. Whereas for those clubs that are in it now and have been for a while, and look, I said this at the start of the season, as did I think a few of the guys that we had on from various clubs. League One is still, for me, the strongest and one of the most competitive leagues there is, with some really high quality clubs and games in there. I don't think there's as many, what was it, dog crap teams, as you put it, as
no, I didn't mean teams. What I meant is football being played. That's what I mean. Like, the football that Bristol Rovers came to play was horrific. Stevenage were horrific. Shrewsbury were horrific. And because Town were poor in all those fixtures in one way or another, that's why it was like, in my mentality, we should be doing better than what we're doing. Exeter, they're one of the best teams in the league at the moment, but I didn't think they were any great shakes. Wigan came the other day. Not that brilliant. I think there's some big clubs in here, but the football's not been that brilliant. Where you look like 12 years ago, say when Town were back in League One, between 2009 to 12, and the amount of massive clubs in League One, Leeds, Forest, Brighton, Sheff Wednesday, Sheff United, Town, Notts Forest, there were some, Norwich. There were absolutely massive football clubs in League One.
There are less of those this time round. Last year, the sides that went up were the bigger sides.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah. And to be fair for you, mate, it's a good job they did. Otherwise, you wouldn't be a big side anymore in League One. You'd still be a middling club size, wouldn't you? If the likes of Wednesday or Leeds or Forest were still in League One, you just
tell you what, Lincoln will be back. Lincoln will be back in League Two if that were the case, definitely.
And to be fair, I'm like, obviously we're working with Rochdale and people that saw those League One days, and it's mad how, back when Rochdale were in League One, you spot on both. Sheffield United came in the league, Sheffield Wednesday came in the league, Sunderland turned up at Scotland, and
Wolves.
Some tales of big size down there. But this is the thing for me though, is because there aren't necessarily those bigger sides. It is kind of obviously Birmingham with the money men, Wrexham with the money, but
that's why Wycombe are doing well
this season. Yeah, well, that's what makes this season and this division arguably more competitive, though. I do think that this season for League One is more anyone can beat anyone on their given day, because there isn't quite that difference between the big clubs, the historical big clubs, and those at the bottom.
One key area I do want to moving it back to this weekend's fixture. One key area that is going to happen is in the midfield. Ben Wiles and Kasumu, who signed a new contract at Town, sort of have been the mainstays in there. Herbie Kane's now starting to really take a role in that Town midfield as well. Jonathan Hogg, unfortunately, picked up an injury the other day, and it looks like he's going to be out for a couple of, at least 6 weeks, according to Michael Duff. Joe Hodge has recovered from his injury, but has gone back to Wolves to let their medical team have a look at him and just make sure they're happy for him to come back. So I don't think Joe will probably be available for the weekend. But the midfield, Chris, I think that's where it's going to be won and lost this weekend, if I'm honest.
I think it's a fair point to make, a fair call to make. Obviously, before we kind of see the team sheets, as I said, Town looking strong midfield. I actually think kind of centre midfield possibly one of our stronger areas as well.
Yeah,
Ethan Erahon has been a man on the rumour mill for quite some time, that we signed from St Mirren, I think, for about 300 grand, and there's been
we wanted to sign him. I think.
Well, I remember in the summer there was not particularly strong, but there were some rumours of Town being interested in Ethan Erahon. I know there's been a few rumours in the past that have been, talk of up to 1.5 million for him, sort of thing. But luckily, kind of we've kept holding. He's probably the best holding. In fact, I would probably go as far as to say he's probably, in his role and what he does as a holding midfielder, a proper little sit in, win the ball, play the ball sort of centre mid. He's probably top 3 in his position in the division, without a doubt. He is absolutely superb.
Yeah.
Extreme comparison. It'd be like losing Rodri. It's the way that City have dropped off a cliff.
He's still young though, isn't he?
Yeah, he's not. He's
your lad, not Rodri.
Yeah, off the top of my head, 23-ish. I've got him in my head.
Yeah,
23, 24.
So is he like Hoggy? Would you say?
I mean, I've probably not seen enough of Jonathan Hogg to be able to make a sound comparison there. But I, from what you kind of told me in the past, he's very much that sitting ball winner sort of thing. So potentially, he's just obviously many years younger. No offense to Jonathan Hogg on that, but that's a fact. It's age.
No, it's fact.
And then I mean, how does kind of that midfield line up for Town? Do you have a sitter and others that kind of go off and do their own thing, or is it a little bit of a free for all for the Town midfielders?
So Ben Wiles is the roamer. He roams around sort of in the number 10 sort of higher position, and Kasumu tends to play the 8, although originally everybody thought he was going to be the 6, but I think Duff's turned him into an 8 just because of his engine. He's got a magnificent engine, can get up and down the field he basically runs himself into the ground every 90 minutes he plays, and it's testament to lad, because when he first came from MK Dons, people thought he was going to be an half decent player, not a major signing, quite injury prone, had some injury worries, but that seems to be all behind him. And although he has had injuries at times at Town, he's getting into a real good run of form. He's just signed a new contract. It's probably the best we've ever seen of him at Huddersfield. And then you've got Herbie Kane, who's really experienced, although he's the most balling 25-year-old I've ever seen on the planet. A genuine. He's like, no,
he's
he
only
is
25.
Yeah, he's 20. He's I think 25 or 26. Yeah.
He's had a hard paper round in his day.
Google his name. Honestly, I swear.
26.
Now.
He's 26. Yeah, he was 26 in November. To be fair,
in November,
not far off.
Yeah, and he's the most balling man I've ever seen. That's that young. But anyway, apart from his hair, that now kind of resembles Bobby Charlton in the World Cup of 1960. And I'm not saying he's as good as Bobby Charlton, by the way, but he does play that sort of deeper role where he can get on the ball, spread the ball about. Sort of, he's got his passing range is very, very good. and you want him to be that controlling influence in midfield. So that's why Ben Wiles has got so many goals this season, because he's not been shackled by it. Yes, he's been given things to do and obviously a position to play, but I don't think Ben's as shackled as what, say, Herbie Kane is. But I think that's probably because Duff worked with Herbie Kane at Barnsley and sort of knows to the second of Herbie Kane in a match what he can do and how he can trust him. So that's kind of how it's lined up at the moment. Joe Hodge, obviously, like I said, he played a couple of games in that, and he's a number 6. Hogg is a number 6. So we kind of are missing a few in midfield that are slightly more dynamic. Tom Yorpienda, hasn't really stepped up to the plate as of yet, but he's a good, hungry young player. Trying to think who else I might have missed. I can't think of anybody else on the top of my head at the moment, but we are slightly light in midfield. Slightly light. But it is a very strong 3 of Kasumu, Kane and Wiles, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say for us, kind of with Irahan, you've got options in the centre midfield, and then if Conor McGrandles, who's back for a second spell.
He's been about, hasn't he? I remember him somewhere else.
Yeah, good little player, to be fair, is Conor McGrandles. Bit of a strange one, because he left
he at Swindon or something? I remember him in League Two
in the past, but he did really well for us and Michael Appleton, and then he's technically Scottish, but he said he wanted to move away to be close to his family. Bear in mind he's Scottish. He moved to Charlton, which baffled us all at the time. But then he came back on loan from Charlton second half of last season, picked up an injury, so I think he missed a fair chunk of the second half of last season. Then joined permanently this summer, so he's back and he's got a decent engine about him. Ethan Hamilton is a cracking player as well. We haven't really had too much opportunity to see it, but he's got a good shot from distance.
Yeah.
Moylan can play in the central midfield as well, or out wide. He, for me, is. I know at the age of 34, you're probably not supposed to have favourite players. You're supposed to have grown out of that childish mentality of having a favourite player. But Jack Moylan is a cracking player and one to look out for if he plays tomorrow. I'll say whether that's kind of in the centre or out wide. Now, one of the other wide men to mention is a little bit of a unknown quantity. It'll be Eric Ring, who's a lad that we picked up from Sweden in the summer. I'll be honest. I think overall, to kind of sum up, bearing in mind that we've been on for not far short of an hour, I'm cautiously optimistic for a point.
Good.
But as I said before, all the pressure's on you guys. Like, we're in bad form in the league. You're the big team. You'll have what the attendance has been like, actually. I mean, one of the early questions that I saw earlier from Blue Terriers, what Lincoln bring. We've sold 1,300 in advance. That was up till...
You'll have 1,500 there. You can normally...
Yeah, yesterday or Wednesday.
You
we
can
sold about 1,300. So obviously, I'm assuming there'll be some pay on the gate as
you can normally predict about 200, can't you? Pay on the gators.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll be looking at 1,500 or so, which would be a pretty good following for one of the Saturdays in the run up to Christmas.
Yeah, definitely. Just like to thank also Blue Terrier Anthony Evans. That was the other midfielder. He'd been out for a while, so I forgot him. Has he got Herbie Kane who's he got as his thing?
I think you're right. I think that is Herbie Kane.
It is Herbie Kane, but he looks like he's got hair.
He's got hair there.
Yeah, he's just lost it in the time that he's played for Town. I do want to also thank, I think, Adam Cattrall, who's commented quite a lot as well, and other people that have got involved at the stream today. So, Chris, final predictions for the game?
Head. I mean, head's kind of fluctuating between a 1-0 defeat and a 1-1 draw, and Hearts saying a 2-0 win. So just take your pick out. I mean, honestly, win, loss or draw, it could be anything, to be honest, mate. The important thing is, I will be in the stadium to see it. I'm not chickening out on it by disappearing out of the country to avoid having to be at the game.
No, that wasn't that. And this trip, so I am going on a trip away, and it was booked before the season started. I didn't know Lincoln was going to be on that fixture on this particular day.
This is what he says. As soon as he saw the fixtures were announced, he was straight onto Booking.com.
No, I wasn't.
Other travel sites are available.
Yeah. Let's put the BBC notice out there. So you are going for a 1-0 defeat. That's fine, mate. You very confident there.
I could see. I mean, it's one of those. Look, what are you? If you ignore, I was about to say if you ignore let's not ignore the cup game on Tuesday, because if we ignore the Town Cup game, we should also ignore the Lincoln game. But we won ours, so that'll give us some confidence. So you're
one loss in 12.
Yeah, I mean you're coming to this off the back of no wins from one. So look,
what do you mean no wins from one? You've got that wrong.
You lost. You didn't win your last game, did you? So
okay,
maybe you're not the form team anymore.
No, maybe not. Well, I'd like to thank
Blue Terrier's going 3-1, and he's also for Ladapo to get a goal. He's now, from what I've been told, Ladapo has been bloody dreadful, which I'll be honest, surprising me, because I thought, as we said on the podcast when Town signed him, I genuinely thought that would actually turn out to be quite a good little sign on a freebie.
Yeah, he's not been good. I mean, I watched him against Wigan, bless, and I've played better on a football pitch. So yeah,
says he'll turn up if he plays.
If he does score, that's great. What I want to know, Chris, is where you're going to go for your pint after the game, where you'll be crying into your beer.
Well, I won't be crying for a start, because there's no pressure on us. We're not expected to get a result at Town. And I think I won't go for a pint either, because I'm driving. I'll be taking Lewis home and dropping him off, and then heading through to see family in Skipton. It's not a rock and roll football day, I'll be honest, but
I do love the fact that Lewis is going to cheer against Town. He's never cheered for Town yet. Obviously, he's a close-logic Leeds fan, so, celebrate.
He actually isn't. We should probably help him out here. He isn't actually a closet Leeds fan. We just want
he is.
He seems to fully agree with them on everything.
No, he is. Okay, well, I'd like to thank everybody for getting involved. I'm going to go for a very confident 3-1 victory. Danny Ward will score too. I love that. I love the confidence. Yeah, I'm going to go for a 3-1 victory and a full-time text between myself and Chris while I'm sat in a bar somewhere in the middle of Europe where I can enjoy the victory.
Is it Prague you're going?
It's somewhere in the middle of Europe.
It is Prague. I don't know why you're being so secretive. As if somebody's going to hunt you down in Prague. Like, this isn't.
You might after the game when you lose.
Do you think you're in the storyline of Taken or something? Like, or you have to dig Liam Neeson out to come and rescue you from a Prague? No, I'm going to stop that sentence before I carry on. But the point is, in Prague, you'll be fine. I mean, I'll let you send me a text, because I'm not texting Europe. It'll cost me an arm and a leg.
No, that's what, there's a little thing called WhatsApp, Chris, where you can message for free, but there we are. Right, so we will end the stream here. I'm going 3-1. Chris is going a 1-0 defeat.
No, I'll go 1-1. If you push it, mate, it's a 1-1 draw.
Okay, it's a 1-1 draw. But what we do know is the Giants of Huddersfield Town will be playing the Minnows of Lincoln. Goodbye, everybody, and we'll see you on the Monday show. See you later.
Bye. You won't be on the Monday show.